Bases drop, Freestyle Friday, which means one thing and one thing only. We have to start the weekend, which is, I guess, technically this way.
Come on, man. Go for it, dude.
It's Friday. Friday. Day.
It is Friday here, SDH AM. John here, you there, wasting no time. No time to waste. We got to get into the weekend. Technically, he gets to be open and kickoff from our friends at Black Bitch Coffee and blackbitchcoffee.com. We go to the Central Time Zone, or as the boss calls it, God's Time Zone. And it is Central Time, where our buddy Lucas Panzica from 104.5 The Zone drops by. How are you, my friend, as we get ready for a big rivalry weekend?
I'm good, man. Hope you're well. Central Time Zone, one of those things that you're especially thankful for when a 10:30 kickoff at least isn't an 11:30 kickoff.
Yes, I will grant you that. Yeah. And so we will get into said kickoff here in a sec. And you get a win like that at the Azteca.
If you don't mind a cameo up here.
Oh, absolutely not. No. We are a guardian friendly zone. The rowdy man is right here. He's making sure that no one comes into the set, and if the handyman does, then he'll hear about it. Yeah, pet friendly, pet free, absolutely. Cameos are always welcome. You go to the Azteca, you get a goal from Hani Mukhtar. Sam Surridge not in the lineup, and that'll be a subplot here in a second. Has it sunk in yet to Nashville that they did what they did earlier in the week?
Man, it's a good question. Going down, it didn't feel like this sort of insurmountable task, just given the form Club America had been in, how tight the first leg was at Geodis Park, and the fact that, obviously, without conceding an away goal in the first leg, there was the scenario of Nashville drawing 1-1, 2-2, or what have you, and advancing on away goals. So, going in, there's kind of just this perception that you're going to the Azteca. It's just not somewhere MLS teams win. It's just not. But on the other hand, when you ask yourself, is it feasible for this game to end 1-1? Oh, yes, absolutely it is. Club America, Jardine there is probably on the hot seat. They've been on a rough patch of form. Nashville controlled the game in the first leg. So you really only need 1 to 2 moments, and they got that from, fittingly, Hani Mukhtar in the 51st minute. The Surridge knock kind of popped up late, and that was certainly a concern. Didn't travel to Mexico City, but overall, a pretty controlling performance. Nashville did get away with some sloppy moments here and there, and Brian Schwacke stepped up in a major way in goal. But obviously, a historic moment for the club. And yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say that Nashville fans were still kind of riding this high, this euphoria of making that sort of MLS history and taking another step closer to a continental crown.
Listen to you talking Triple C. You opened up another door with Schwacke, and I know that Joe Willis has been anchored there. Literally you sign his book when you go into the goal mouth these days. But now Schwacke comes over from Sporting Kansas City, and you get the new guy between the sticks. What's it been like with him hitting all the right notes so far, coming over and getting the starts?
Well, it wasn't Sporting Kansas City. He actually came over from Europe. I mean, Schwacke played his college soccer at DePaul, and then kind of took the road less traveled for a young American player. COVID had hit. He had no options other than to go play in the lower level leagues in Scotland, and that's what he did, and he cut his teeth there. And then he did the same in Spain, third tier soccer in Spain, where he really learned how to play with the ball at his feet. And there was a mutual coaching connection there between somebody he played for in Spain that had known and worked with BJ Callahan in the past. And they brought him in kind of with this goal of phasing him in as the one if he'd be up to the task. And they did that last year with Schwacke as the 2 behind Willis. He got U.S. Open Cup. He obviously took that opportunity and ran with it. And then they were able to phase into Schwacke as the one. Willis was not anticipated to be brought back after last year. The club elected not to bring him back, and then they end up bringing him back on a 1-year deal. He decides, why go to another city and try to scrap it out for a starting job when I'm here? My family's here. And he's essentially acted as a mentor to Brian Schwacke, who can do much more out of the back in terms of what BJ Callahan needs out of his keepers.
Now, you mentioned Sam Surridge, and obviously he was not available. He didn't show up. That was a bit of a surprise, as you mentioned, on all the news and notes as everybody was heading down. Do you have anything resembling a Sam Surridge update?
Day to day right now. It's
Aren't we all, sir?
I hear you. It's pretty touch and go at this point. Like I said, that kind of came out of the blue. Sam Surridge came off the bench last Saturday in the second half against Charlotte. Rotated squad, but he got a cameo there. As did Hani Mukhtar, Christian Espinoza, trying to keep legs fresh for the Tuesday fixture in Mexico. And then, I learned the day before that he probably wasn't going to make the trip. And at this point, it's still kind of touch and go. And look, with Nashville going down to Atlanta, obviously with the semifinal tie looming in CONCACAF Champions Cup, I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you for sure, but I will say I'd be surprised if Sam Surridge appears or starts on Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But it's touch and go at the moment, as tricky as hamstring injuries can be.
Then, as we project this further, the lineup in the midweek, Schwacke in net, Reed Baker-Whiting, Maxwell Edgy, Palacios, Nahar at the back, Muil, Eddie Tagset, Madrigal, Yazbek, Espinoza, Mukhtar. How much of that 11, considering they played in the midweek, considering what happened in the midweek and all the energy exerted, how rotated would you anticipate this side be for BJ coming down?
It's an interesting question because there's really only 2 occasions where Nashville has rotated heavily this season, and that has been with a Tuesday or Wednesday looming in CONCACAF Champions Cup. It was at Columbus and at Charlotte. BJ made 8 and 7 changes, respectively, in those 2 games. And Nashville came away with 6 points out of those games. But the only sample size right now that we have of Nashville coming off that midweek against an opponent like Inter Miami, which is kind of what's happening here, coming off the midweek against Club America without a midweek on the other side. Nashville rolled out a pretty full-strength lineup the last time they were in this situation against Orlando before the international break, and they routed Orlando 5-0 on that day. John, I would not expect a lineup like you saw last Saturday in Charlotte with Rubens Pacius starting up top and just that sheer amount of rotation. I'm expecting Nashville to go pretty full strength here as they try to sustain, right, and do the thing that's been so difficult for so many MLS teams with CONCACAF Champions Cup congesting the schedule.
Yeah, and getting into that, then I would imagine, once again, and we'll get into the bench in the midweek, Acosta Valdez, your Snidely Whiplash of a villain and Joe Willis, Lovitz, Mayer, Bauer, Williams, Muhammad, Pacius, Corcoran, and Kassem. There are some younger guys there that were on the bench to start that have proven that they're worthy of the minutes that BJ Callahan wants of them. And so if he trots out, all things being equal, the 11 of 11s, then I'm thinking probably 45 and 60, somewhere between 45 and 60, 65 is where you're going to be relying on that bench to bring this one home. True?
True to an extent. BJ Callahan, I have to say, last year, hardly rotated. I mean, midweek fixtures coming up, it wasn't really part of Nashville's mindset. It was, look, we're just going to roll out a full strength lineup each and every match. Now, the depth is much improved here in 2026, so they can afford to rotate a lot more without that drop off being as significant. But I don't believe Nashville has a plan. They kind of have it in blocks, right? Okay, here's this stretch of 32 days with 9 matches, and then this stretch of 35 days with 10 matches, where they kind of have a plan that they want to execute, a general plan. But I think once the whistle blows and the ball is rolling, it is about that 90 minutes. And there's not this preconceived, okay, in the best case scenario, X player is taken off. He's run his race after 60, 65 minutes. Nashville's going to go down to Mercedes-Benz Stadium to try to get 3 points. Honestly, it's the mentality they've carried in road games since BJ Callahan stepped in here. Now, with that said, if you see players like Hani Mukhtar kind of in that vein starting on the bench, then you can very well expect to see those players coming off the bench in the second half to close out games, where whenever there is rotation, there's kind of this switching of roles where bench players just become the starters, and then the starters become the bench players that come in for reinforcements in the second half.
Our buddy Lucas Panzica dropping by, Opposition Research, getting ready for Nashville and Atlanta. Stylistically, last year to this year, how different is Nashville? It seems, obviously, you look at the numbers and the standings, goals allowed, very, very small. How stylistically different are they, and how are things? I mean, when somebody walks in the door, what are they going to see different this year than they might have last year, formationally and stylistically?
Honestly, not terribly different in terms of what they want to accomplish. The biggest difference to me is honestly the personnel in some critical situations. Nashville is kind of an elevated version of what they were last year. I think they're more in the mold of what BJ Callahan envisioned when he stepped foot in Music City a couple of years ago. Whereas last year, they were starting to reach that sort of style of play, but doing it with parts and pieces that maybe weren't as good a fits. And, credit to Walker Zimmerman and Joe Willis, who had never once in his long career been asked to be a ball-playing goalkeeper and kind of grew into that role last year. But here in 2026, Walker Zimmerman's out and Maxwell Waledji is in. And this is a line-breaking center back. He can carry the ball forward. He can, a lot of times, build out, dictate the beginning of an attack from the back line. Brian Schwacke, who, can be an extension of Nashville's buildup. You'll often find him flanked by two center backs with fullbacks pushing wide as Nashville essentially builds in threes, right, in every phase of the field. So it's just kind of a more advanced version of what they were doing last year, John, with a player like Christian Espinoza now in the building to be able to draw attention away from the likes of Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surridge, and that's obviously opened a lot of things up.
Yeah, that is definitely the move of the offseason. It's like, yeah, we forgot to submit the paperwork on a renewal. Oh, he's available? Okay, great. I looked at that and I was like, damn, son, that's a good pull. I mean,
it's sometimes better to be lucky than good, right?
Take it. All right. So then if, you and I are doing the open, since we've done opens together, we know how to do the open. Music hits, title card over wide. We welcome everybody in. Then we do our quick little hits on the overarching match itself. Then we do players to watch. We do the Atlanta players to watch. Then we do the Nashville players to watch. Give me someone who is not in that player to watch category. Give me somebody who flies below the radar that would contribute to the success of Nashville on Saturday. So if so-and-so is doing what they're supposed to do within the framework of the starting 11, then Nashville SC is succeeding. Who would that below the radar person be? Is it Maxwell Edgy?
Maxwell Edgy is a great shout. Absolutely. I would go, since you mentioned Maxwell, Patrick Yazbek. Patrick Yazbek has had the season of his life to this point in 2026. Did play 70 minutes on Tuesday. We'll see how much of a factor that is going into the starting lineup on Saturday. But look, he is a man on a mission trying to make the Australian national team for the World Cup. He has been he's been much more involved in the attack. I mean, he's a box-to-box midfielder, right? He kind of falls under that category. John, this year he's been end line to end line. I mean, the guy has been everywhere. He's surging forward with these long, rangy dribbles. He and Eddie Taxeth have complemented one another very well. But there's been a couple of occasions this year where Patrick Yazbek has just been everywhere. When you follow Patrick Yazbek, you're following the game really in all three phases of the field. So that's the one I would submit for those that look at Nashville and they know Hani and they know about Sam and they obviously know about Christian. But Yazbek has really unlocked a lot of things because Nashville was thought to have needed in the offseason a ball progressing, more creative midfielder. That felt like a big box to check. They didn't necessarily address that in the offseason. They kind of addressed it by making it a point of emphasis for Patrick Yazbek to turn into more of that type of player. And that's exactly what he's done. I don't think they could have asked for a much better first few months from their number 8.
Best offense in the East, best defense in the East, coming off the biggest, safe to say the biggest win in club history, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. Look, you won a trophy last year, but what are we talking about here, right? We're talking about going to Mexico City in CONCACAF Champions Cup as opposed to going to Austin on a Wednesday in October, which no disrespect to the U.S. Open Cup, but by degree of difficulty, John, yeah, I think we'll all agree that, yeah, this one tops the list.
So are you going to submit for the field trip for the Tigres matchup coming up in the semifinals?
I mean, you bet. That's another bucket list stadium for sure. And I'm fascinated to see what that matchup looks like. I really am. I'd be lying if there wasn't part of me hoping Seattle Sounders would prevent that away goal and pull that thing out earlier this week. limit those trips to Mexico as much as possible, right? But at the end of the day, I think it's cool that there's this opportunity to challenge yourself going back to Mexico and facing a team that, unlike Club America, is hot right now in the Clausura and Liga MX.
Last meal that you cooked at home was what?
Oh, last night I made like a little lamb hummus sort of,
You had me at lamb, but then you lost me at hummus.
Oh, you're not a hummus guy. Okay.
No.
Kind of some Mediterranean vibes last night, just riffing around a little bit.
Okay, just checking because we know how you like to get lost in the kitchen sometimes. Are you having said lamb and hummus for breakfast?
No, not quite. Just a regular old American breakfast for me this morning. But yeah, well, I'm looking forward to this on Saturday, man. I know the vibes haven't been fantastic in Atlanta this year, but I promise you the way that it's being talked about up here is, look, a team with the sort of quality on Atlanta's roster that's had those sort of struggles oftentimes can turn into one of the more dangerous teams you can face in any given weekend on the road.
Hit the promo for me and let me know how folks can listen not only this weekend, but 24/7.
Sure. 104.5 The Zone is where we are for every Nashville SC radio broadcast. Obviously, on the home matches, watching on Apple TV, you can toggle that on. At Lucas Panzica is where you can find me for all sorts of Nashville SC coverage.
Where it says right there.
That's
See?
it.
Right there, at Lucas Panzica. Glad you were able to introduce us to your furry guardian this morning. We always approve those kinds of things. And don't be a stranger. Crash anytime. It's always great to see you, my friend. And we're going to have fun on Saturday night.
Thanks, brother. See you.
All right, there goes Lucas Panzica, 104.5 The Zone. That's your opposition research. And that is also opening kickoff, brought to you by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Starting your day with the most important stories of the game. I think Atlanta United and Nashville qualifies. And the right way to start your morning, Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend from beans from Brazil and Guatemala. Heavy body, notes of walnut, semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Also on the board, just a quick reminder. Morning Espresso, that goes out every morning. And that is absolutely free. It's a newsletter that goes into your inbox. Helps me out to kind of refine my thoughts when it comes to like path that the show needs to take every morning if there was something that I missed in the overnight. So I am a full-blown subscriber to Morning Espresso. Thanks to our friends at Oglethorpe University for being great partners and sponsors with that. That's what Jason puts together. So you have in concert and combination, start your day. This here on the visual and the audio side, Morning Espresso, you can either get that in newsletter form, and sometimes Jason will pop up and he will do an audio version or a video version of that. So Morning Espresso, once again, you get Atlanta soccer fans, you get to start your day that way. So go to soccerdownhere.net, go to our website, and then right there, bang, right in the middle, you can subscribe to it or just go to the read section, get on the mailing list. Start your morning right, and especially with everything happening. I've heard that there's this tournament that's coming to this hemisphere in short order that we all need to kind of pay attention to. Morning Espresso brought to us by our friends at Oglethorpe University. The way to start your day in newsletter form all around the planet in a very little period of time. Bang. Morning Espresso from Jason and his corners of the planet that are plugged into anything and everything going on in the sport. So you can subscribe to Morning Espresso like I have, and you get everything rolling there. All right. Let's find out who is in the middle for the matches this weekend and find out about this match specifically involving Atlanta and Nashville, what possibly to anticipate. I believe in 6 minutes we might be catching up with our friend Greg Garza. I believe so. We have the Spidey, we have the bat signal out, and we'll see if we can catch up with Greg at 9:30. And our friend Miguel Gallardo from Orlando and Apple TV. We'll find out about the purple team, find out about what's going on in his mind. He's going to join us at 10. Rest of the morning, we'll get you plugged into everything else that's going on around the planet. John Texter wants to buy another club. I wish I had a laugh track that I could cue. I need to. But we'll get into that and a couple of other things. A big match in the Premier League this weekend. Europa and Conference League, that got wrapped up. We now know Atlanta United is going to be playing at Matthews when it comes to Charlotte in 2 weeks. So we'll catch up on your rundown there. And let's see, Sheffield Wednesday news and Aries management news, plus required reading and the WNT. So gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, all the things. All right, tonight we actually have a match. Vancouver and Sporting at 10:40. Elihu Adegin in the middle. Stefan Tanaka-Freund, Twain Anderson, your ARs. Victor Rivas is your fourth. Sean Tahini and Craig Lowry are upstairs. Toronto and Austin. Toronto gets the matinee again. At BMO, Drew Fisher is in the middle. Michael Barweg, Lias Arfa are your ARs. Nico Jakanski is your fourth. JC Rivero and TJ Zablocki are upstairs. CF Montreal and Red Bull at Stade Saputo. Sergei Demyanchuk in the middle for this one. Jose de Silva, Jard Carder-Lebuy are your ARs. Your fourth is Michael Venn. Greg Dopka and Tom Supple are upstairs. According to the family Saputo, after they sacked Marco Donadel, the sons for Joey Saputo desire progression. But Backheel did a study, and with the Canadian dollar revenue against the U.S. dollar salaries focus on selling players, they are last in salary spending in 2025. Charlie Boehm had that piece for those of you that subscribe to Backheel. So no surprise they are where they are. Now, also on the board for the weekend, Colorado hosting Messi and friends at 4:30, and my guess is that means it's going to be a 4:50. John Freeman in the middle, Logan Brown, Ryan Graves, your ARs. Ricardo Fierro is your fourth. Edvin Jurasevich and Mike Kampmeinert are upstairs. Alan Chapman in the middle for Atlanta United and Nashville. Corey Richardson, Ben Pilgrim, your ARs. Sergi Boyko is your fourth. Philip Dujic is your VAR. However, Tom Supple is also upstairs. FC Cincinnati, Chicago Fire. Malik Badawi's in the middle. Justin Howard, Matthew Nelson, your ARs. Rosendo Mendoza is your fourth. Kevin Terry Jr. and TJ Zablocki are upstairs. Revs and crew. Timothy Ford in the middle. Chris Wadham and Mike Nickerson, your ARs. Guido Gonzalez Jr. is your fourth. Brad Jensen and Mike Kampmeinert are upstairs. NYC in Charlotte. Tori Penso, Brooke Mayo, Catherine Nesbitt, 1, 2, and 3. Your fourth is Matthew Corrigan, David Barry, and Karsten Gilwald making an appearance upstairs. Purple team in Houston Dynamo. Pierre-Luc Lazieres in the middle. Nick Uranga, Rhett Hamill are your ARs. Abdu Njai is your fourth. Jorge Gonzalez and Craig Lowry are upstairs. Philadelphia DC. Lorenzo Hernandez in the middle. Walt Heatherly, Diego Blas, your ARs. Ricardo Montero Araya is your fourth. Kevin Stott and Joshua Patlak are upstairs. FC Dallas LAG at Toyota Stadium, 8:40. Marcus de Oliveira in the middle. Adam Winkowski, your ARs. Oscar Mitchell Carvalho is the other. Elvis Osmanovic is your fourth. Lucas Zapala, Jonathan Johnson are upstairs. 8:40 Minnesota Portland. Nabil Ben Salah is in the middle. Ian McKay, Kevin Locke, your ARs. Your fourth is Fotis Bazakos. Caroline Chenard and Claudio Badea are upstairs. San Diego on the road at 9:40. Jarrett Smith will be there for SDH Mountain Time, taking on RSL. Ismail Elfath in the middle. Corey Parker, Zach McWhorter, your ARs. Thomas Snyder is your fourth. Michael Radchuk, Tom Felice are upstairs. Seattle and St. Louis City SC. Chris Penso is in the middle, 9:40 Eastern. Chris Elliott, Jeremy Hansen are your ARs. Brandon Stevis is your fourth. Yunus Morakchi and Fabio Tovar are upstairs. Sunday Night Soccer, LAFC hosting San Jose. Joe Dickerson in the middle for that one, too. Lock in, 7:10 Eastern. Jeremy Kiso, Stephen McGonigal, your ARs. Alexis De Silva is your fourth. Lucas Zapala and Jonathan Johnson are upstairs. Now, Alan Chapman, it's an interesting statistic, because we always like to do the breakdown of the officials and possibly what to expect. This year, in Major League Soccer, Alan Chapman, of the 29 officials that have been in the middle this year, he is dead blanking last in fouls per game, and it is by a long margin. 28th is John Freeman at 1975, 19 3/4. Alan Chapman, I did not have this. Alan Chapman, fouls per match, 14.4. He is a full 5 fouls less than the next to last. Alan Chapman, 29th of 29 in fouls per match at 14.4. John Freeman, next to last at 19.75, a full 5 fouls less. I mean, there's everybody else, and then there's Alan Chapman, fouls per match at 14.4. So then fouls per tackle, once again, dead last at 0.46. Penalties per match, he hasn't called one. Yellows per match, he's last. He's only called 9 yellow cards in 5 matches this year. So he is at 1.8 yellows per match. And then obviously he has 2 reds in his 5 matches in the middle. And so he would be, fairly close to the top there. So Alan Chapman and let them play. Think about the Bad News Bears at the Astrodome. William Devane and Jackie Earl Haley out on the turf at the Astrodome when the time limit gave up. They come storming out of the dugout, and they sit there and they go, let them play, let them play. Alan Chapman was supposed to, that's how he's wired. Alan Chapman will let Atlanta United and Nashville do that this weekend. Last in fouls per game by 5. Last in fouls per tackle. Last in yellows per match. And then obviously he's got 2 reds on the season. So that's, keep an eye on that. Now, I'm late. I'm horribly late. I'm a minute late. It's 9:31. And so that means we bring in our buddy Greg Garza and find out what's going on in the world of mentoring. There you go. Now he's gassed up and ready to go. He's got the hair back. The lid is down. You were ready.
The hair is always just to, or the hat is always just to protect the morning hair, man. I've already done my run. I've already worked out, but oh man, not enough time to take a shower. And I gotta get the house clean because I have some dude named Michael Parker staying a couple of nights here, man. So
Parky's crashing with you.
Parky's crashing with me. I'm not even going to be here. I got to travel to Raleigh for my kids' games, but I'll let him roam around the house, man. No reason to book a hotel, man.
Okay. So I'm going to walk through this now. So when you have an ex-teammate come into the Casa de Garza,
yeah.
Do you just basically sit there and go, dude, just don't set the place on fire? Or do you have like a guide list of things that they have to do? You got to take out the garbage. You got to run the disposal. You got to do this, make your bed. How does this work? What is the to-do list for Michael Parkhurst that he stays at the Casa de Garza?
Well, if I gave you a tour of my house is very well organized, and I'm a little bit of a clean freak. So, I would say, the Abster just said have Parky sign the banner. Yes. I'm sure he will. What was I going to say?
Clean house.
This is one thing I have Michael Parkhurst coming. I don't have Joseph Martinez coming to my house. So there's a huge difference. I don't think there's any way I would let Joseph stay if I'm not here. But I will definitely let the captain, my captain, stay in my house, because we're talking about the biggest germaphobe in the whole entire planet. Really? I don't know if anybody knows that. That's Parky's dirty little secret.
Wow. Yeah. So he's a massive germaphobe, huh?
He is a huge germaphobe. He walks with hand sanitizer in his pocket. That's like his little go-to.
Really?
So this is a good story. Not many people know, but Parky absolutely hated to do the walkout when we would used to walk from the bus to the locker room, because of the amount of hands he would have to touch.
Wow.
And so that was like something for him that was so probably created a lot of anxiety for him.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So if I see him on Saturday, so yes, basically, if anybody sees him on Saturday, offer your hand. Say
he will always. The things to do with Parky, and I've learned it as well, especially through appearances. And appearances that I have, I always have one ask, like a bottle of water, because I never can take any of my bottle inside the stadium, but I always walk around with a bottle of water. But hand sanitizer is my second ask, because you have so many people that dab you up. You have so many people that come and say hi, and it's like, man, within an hour and a half, you probably have a good 200, 300 people that you're touching. So, and just to make sure that I keep myself healthy and everybody else around me, I definitely must. But I mean, the one with the walkout, you had Parky, you had us touching, 1,000 people, man. Yeah. So Parky would literally, when we would get onto the elevator to take us down to the walkway to the locker room, Parky would ask everybody's hand and give everybody a little dab of hand sanitizer, man. He's a great captain. Yeah.
Look, if you're a great captain, you're looking at every aspect of the game. Nothing gets past you, because if you're touching hands and you're not taking care of it, then you get home and somebody's hand of the 1,000 that you didn't touch and take care of yourself with the sanitizer, somebody might have been sick. Somebody might have been grabbing a 5-year-old that's been snotting up all over the place, and then you end up being sick and you're not at practice. And am I wrong here?
You are completely right. we always talk about leadership within our sessions and mentorship. And, we always talk about different ways of leading.
Mhm.
And, Parky is very known to not be that rah guy. He's not that guy that's going to give a pregame speech and it's going to make your hair stand up. He's not that guy. But he is by far one of the most understanding people I think I know. And he's just so understanding, and he understands situations and scenarios and circumstances. And he's able to just like be so genuine in his understanding. And I think that's what made him a great leader. He was always trying to figure out ways to make everybody happy and make sure everybody was comfortable and safe and secure, and whether that be in the way that he played or just in the ways off the field. Like, I think that's very, you have different leaders and different captains you have, and by far in my career, he was definitely the pure essence and the epitome, I think, of that understanding in a great way.
So these days with your mentees, how many of them are either already showing that leadership DNA, or you think that you're drawing it out of them and they're on that road to being leaders? Or right now, or is it mostly just student athletes being student athletes, or are you seeing leaders emerge in your sessions?
No, we do see a lot of leaders emerge within our sessions, whether they're captains of their team or whether you don't need necessarily even have to be the captain of your team. But I always tell every kid, boy, girl, you are our leader of tomorrow.
Mhm.
The way you carry yourself, the way you hold yourself accountable, the way you hold others accountable, and whatever traits that you feel that you have in order to do so. I mean, I think my leadership is and me particular is connection. I think I'm so good at connecting people, and just being glue and just making sure I always got a smile on my face, and making sure I am acknowledging everybody in the room.
Right.
And it's I think I mentioned that last time. I walk into the Atlanta United trading facility every Thursday morning, and I'm like dabbing every single person. I have no idea who some of these people are. I've never seen them in my life, but I'm dabbing them up. I'm telling them good morning, have a good day. It's that's something that for me, I was like that in the locker room everywhere I played. So that's just a different type of leadership. And so I think when we speak with kids, or sometimes young pros, I think we try and kind of help them be self-aware and kind of assess what works best for them and how they can kind of apply and implement whatever their leadership traits are.
How many of them now are you noticing that there are more student athletes and mentees that are self-aware about who they are personality wise, or do you and Parky have to kind of lead them into, okay, this is who you are, recognize who you are?
Yeah, we'll ask them. One of my favorite exercises, and it's so interesting because, we try and come up with different ways to come up with different exercises. And um, I had a goalie once for Inter Miami that's now in college,
Mhm.
that asked me such a weird question, but it created an idea for me to create an exercise with it. And he asked me, just like, Coach Greg, what in your career, in your, whenever you played, what in your mind, what shaped the perfect goalie? And he was a keeper. And dude, I was like, dude, I have no freaking clue how to answer that question, man. I never played goalie.
Well, keepers are out there on an island mentally anyway. They're their own animal, dude.
And so what I did is I just switched it around I just kind of turned it back on him.
Mhm.
And I had him create a list, and I told him in his right mind, give me 10 traits. And for every trait, you got to give me a reasoning.
Huh.
Why do you think what makes a perfect goalie? And that sparked right there, just that idea right there. And I'm like, oh crap, dude, I got a new exercise. Now I can ask every kid in their right mind what makes a perfect position. And it has to be very positional
Yeah.
based, right? But every position requires different traits, every position. And then, at the end of the session, I have them circle which ones they think they embody. And it gives them an idea of traits that they already hold and traits that they already have. And then it gives them an idea of the ones they need to work on. Now, I always, within his question, I was like, dude, there's a false statement within your question. Nobody's perfect. There's
Right.
no perfect position.
Right.
So hopefully this can give you an idea of things that you can already bring to the table, the role that you can play, and they're in your right mind. Everybody's going to give me different things, maybe based on the system that a team plays, maybe based on the way that your coach wants you to play. But then I just turned around and I create a session based on leadership. If I'm speaking to a center back, what in your right mind, what creates the best leader as a center back? And that they'll give me tons of traits. One might be communication, one might be guidance, one might be making sure you are first in everything. There's different ways that kids, I think about leadership. And for me, it's just always really fun to kind of pick and learn from them on what they think, and then just kind of gain access to other exercises that we can create. There's endless amount of things that we can always talk about. And we always never, when we're speaking with certain kids, we'll always hit on the same nail to kind of, help them understand, to really apply what we want them to believe in. But other kids, man, it's helping them tailor the best version of themselves using different things that we think are possible for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that we've kind of said is that perfect practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. But there is no such thing as a perfect individual. And
Yeah.
because when you think you've learned everything, that's when I think, at your most vulnerable when it comes to growth. Because shoot, I'm 108 years old and I'm still learning. And so when you stop learning, then I think that you're kind of dangerous there with, about stagnation, and then having others pass you by in the goals that you want to achieve.
Yeah, I think, one thing I look at is, not just the understanding of not being perfect, but there's different ways that you can look at in terms of development. And I think players have to understand that there is no peak.
Yeah.
I've never seen a great player. In my mind, there's only a few in the world that I think can always be at the highest of levels.
Mhm.
And those are the greats, those are the goats, those are the guys that are the differentiators, those are the guys that they're difference makers. But other than that, there is no. You can always learn. You can always continue to develop. You can always continue to get better. So I think, in a way, what we do is trying to help kids understand that even if they are at the highest level, that they're still not there yet. That they'll never be there, because there's always ways that you can improve. And Parky always says it all the time when we speak to teams. He always says, man, he came in after a very long and successful career to Atlanta United and had no idea what to expect. And we were doing some training sessions with the Tata way, I guess what Joe and I call it now, in the pregame shows. But we you look back at it, and there were moments where you and I have talked about, John, is where us as players, myself, Darlington, Brad, Parky, Jeff, sometimes we're looking at each other and we're like, what the hell are we doing right now in this training? Do you think Messi and Suarez were actually doing this training session right now? There's no way. We would look at each other and sometimes question ourselves, and then we would do the training session, then implement it on the field in a inner squad, or then do it in a game of maybe looking back at what we did in that training session, be like, holy crap, man, like this works. And so you look at Parky, somebody who's been around at that time for such a long time, who had been under so many coaches and had never played that way, and all of a sudden he's learning something new. So even as a veteran, and I think that's the beauty of the game. There is no true peak. You can always continue to get better.
Well, and you mentioned, sometimes I think that being reminded of something, whether it's the simplest thing or something that it might have been way back in your learning tree, when you get that reminder of, okay, and like you said, just like you're practicing, you're all looking at each other going, why are we doing this? And then it's implemented later, and you go, now I know, and now I remember why. It goes back to that whole learning aspect of everything. Sometimes the simplest reminder can help you trigger something that you knew that you might have just kind of put to the side or even forgotten about. But it's sometimes that simplest thing that you sit and go, damn, you're right. And then it reinforces everything that you knew and that you learned up to that point.
Most definitely. Yeah. And that's the beauty of the game. I think you take bits and pieces of different coaches and different environments and different situations and scenarios that you've played in, to create the best version of yourself. So, yeah, man, we love it. It's always good to continue to develop people in different ways, but also, learn from them as well.
Miguel Gallardo coming up top of the hour when we get to break down everything, starting with the purple team. We're going to hang out with him a little bit and find out what in the wide world of sports is going on down there and find out the rest of the weekend with Apple. We are with Greg Garza on the Friday Free Kick. Is when Greg is not traveling the planet and conquering the planet with Major League Soccer and reminding peers about what they're supposed to be doing. All right. So let me go to adults really quickly, because I mean, when you do your appearances and you're there with other, with the current MLS rosters and everything, and you get to remind them about their place and all of that. What's it like to talk to those folks that are just a little adjacent from your playing time to remind them about what's important these days in Major League Soccer?
It's interesting because a lot of the guys that I go and speak to, I feel like they're still most of the guys that are there that I can have a good relationship and can connect with.
Mhm.
But it's also interesting because you walk into some rooms and you see a different generation in front of you. And I think that's something that maybe like Brad could speak to as well, because I think him more than anyone had kind of gone through different generations of personality of players.
Yeah.
And I think the personalities of players these days, of the younger ones, is so unique and so different than, when we were in the locker room. And it's interesting to see from the outside looking in. Just it's almost seen within the game. That's why, like, I almost see it as like the game itself sometimes for me has become so much more robotic,
Hmm.
in a way, than I think it has in the past. So, I feel like sometimes their personalities reflect how the game is played as well, and especially the younger players.
Yeah.
Um, and that's something interesting for me to see when I walk into locker rooms and you see a lot of the younger guys just be so correct and so, like, in their zone, and very, a good head on their shoulders. But I think sometimes that personality is missing. And that's one thing that I think is important whenever I try to walk into locker rooms, is to try and help them understand that it's okay to have a crazy personality. It's okay to be a goofball. It's okay to be the asshole in the locker room, as long as it's in a good way. There's levels to it, and I think that's one thing that I see over the past few years of now doing this and being retired, is that, man, whether it's this that has completely taken over. If you have a conversation with them, maybe via this, it might be different. But it's just it is a lot different these days. And maybe that's truly deep down why Brad retired. It could be maybe he felt like he was the odd man out in in the locker room, in terms of having those just regular dad conversations, to where, I think is getting away from us a little bit, unfortunately.
So when you get to talk to mentees, are the mentees developing into that tab A slot B personality kind of a thing, or are they still formulating who they are personality wise on the field and off?
Yeah, you can notice, within some of our mentees that we speak to, which ones are kind of that different personality type, to where they're just very, I almost say kind of boring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said robotic, and I think that's, I mean, it's,
Yeah, yeah. And then you have kids that you can see like, okay, man, if these kids flourish and these kids make it really far, like they're going to be a great locker room guy, right? And I think that's something was so important to be a great locker room guy. And so, I played with players growing up. I think my best friend growing up and somebody who I think had a hell of a career and not necessarily based on who he was as a player, but that's Zarek Valentine, right? Zarek Valentine from Portland Timbers, played in Minnesota, now assistant coach in Minnesota, played in where the hell was he? All over the dang place, man. He is somebody who I think flourished because of his personality, because of him being a great locker room guy. Not necessarily somebody who we look at it as like, oh man, he was great technically, or he was the fastest one in the field. Because, I think he could probably admit to it. Even when we were kids, he was probably well average in comparison to everybody else. But he ended up having a great career because of his personality and because I think he was a great locker room guy. You can rely on him to boost the morale up, to be a guy who would come in and do great things on and off the field. And that's something that I think kids don't realize sometimes. They think that just their soccer is going to help them flourish. And that's why I always say is my successful career was not because of my game. I truly think there are a lot of talented players out there, but they don't realize how important your personality can be, whether it be that elite personality that you have in terms of the discipline and the professionalism that you have, or other traits that allow you to be successful. I think are equally important.
Reading Rage, Michigan Bucks, Chivas, Montreal Impact, loaned to Bodo Glimt. Then he was at Bodo Glimt, and then it was Portland, Houston, and Minnesota.
Houston, that's where it was. Houston. I knew it was somewhere hot.
And so
he went from the coldest place in the world, next to Santa Claus in the North Pole, to Houston. Goodness gracious.
Can you, if you are one personality, and you mentioned this is the idea of being a locker room guy and being a good locker room guy, can you, how difficult is it, I guess, and you can discuss it, I guess, from a professional perspective and then a mentee perspective, how difficult is it to change your archetype and your personality? Because if you're coming into a situation and you're just, and since we've already got the E rating today, since you're an ass, if you come into a locker room and you're an asshole, can you change to be a good asshole? How difficult is it to change your personality? I mean, whether it's just being a robot and then being the true you, or being an asshole and then turning into a good asshole, how difficult is it to change your personality and adapt to who you are, more the true you in a locker room situation?
I think that's where you take the experience and the wisdom from others. And I think that's important for the younger generation to look at, is how the older guys in the locker room, dictate not only how things function, but also what their personalities are around everybody else when they're in small settings, when they are around team environments, when they're at dinner, when they, and I think that's an important piece of it. I think that you're probably molded into the type of person you're going to be before you become a pro. Yeah. And I think when you do become a pro, you have to kind of then really look into the older guys to see what has allowed them to make it so far.
Did older guys in locker rooms reinforce who you are, or did they remind you of who you needed to be?
You learn from each and every one of them. I think for me, it was to gain experience and wisdom about how to try and make the most out of kind of my career. Mm-hmm. And so I think I try, it's just like you do with coaches. I think for me, being a young guy in the locker room, it was, I would try to pick bits and pieces of older guys within their personalities, the way that they carried themselves, how they acted when they were at appearances, but also still not get away from the type of flair and I guess personality traits that I had internally as well.
And I mean, when you have those mentors that are there for you, did you ever get the opportunity to thank that mentor? It's like, yeah, if it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have been reminded who I am, or I wouldn't have found out who I was. Did you ever get the chance to say thank you to a mentor?
No, I feel like just showing it by action is just kind of, I think, I think us as players, especially, I think we internalize a lot,
Mm.
and maybe we're not as vulnerable to share, but I think that just showing those players how grateful you are for them, and just making sure that you always show them that, maybe with that respect.
Yeah.
I think that is probably the best way to explain it.
Okay. High school playoffs are starting next week here in the state of Georgia, and it is another 3-week sprint or a 4-week sprint to championships. When it comes to your mentees, how many of them are chasing after postseasons and things like that? Do the conversations change going regular season to postseason, or is it just reinforcing what they've already been having discussions with you guys about?
Yeah, I think it's just keeping consistent on what we've already spoken to some of the high schools about.
Mhm.
I think it's like you said, reinforcing those messages to make sure they are reminded of them.
Yeah.
I know Campbell High School we speak to every single year. They won the championship last year.
Mhm.
So it's sometimes I'll speak to their Coach Troy, and I'll get a message from him, after last year of the championship, and just get a cool message of, hey man, we were able to remember and recall one simple thing that you guys said in your session, and that's something that we stuck by the whole entire season. So I think that's my ultimate goal. That's our ultimate goal, is that I could give two craps if they forget, most of it. My biggest thing is that I want them to remember something that is going to, help them, and hopefully in some small way.
And they made a charge through the playoffs last year. I know that they shocked a lot of folks. They go to McEachern, win a title. They're Region 3 champs this year, and they get on the 24th. So a week from today is when Campbell's boys start, with Wheeler coming in.
Either high school.
Yeah. When do you head to North Carolina to be a dad?
We head tomorrow afternoon with a game on Sunday. Parky will be here through the weekend. He'll be at the game tomorrow. I think he's got some appearance at the game. So, and then after that, I think I'm here for a couple of weeks, which is all right. And then, yeah, traveling a lot of May, have a lot of travel. So, it'll be fun.
Absolutely, as it always is. I can't thank you enough for dropping in. And literally, it's like you'll say something that'll trigger another topic and another topic and another topic. I love how we can just kind of bust the door down and find out what's going on. Greg, it's always great to see you, my friend. Be safe traveling. Have a great weekend. May the goals be plentiful. May the defense be just as stout. And we'll catch up with you next time.
Appreciate you, brother. Take care, man.
All right, there goes Greg Garza. And he is – I worry for his house. I really do. As much as Parky is a germaphobe, I really worry. I really worry. I don't know. I imagine that he is. Now I imagine that that there's going to be some World Cup going on. This morning is the availability for coaches and players, and Doug Robertson, Miggy has a knee irritation, expected to miss a week or two. So keep an eye on that and find out what the lineup might be like now with Miggy out. And so perhaps it's going to look like what it did when the matchup was late second half against Chattanooga. So we'll keep an eye on that. But obviously we'll file the Miguel Almiron information away and find out what it's going to look like. No updates yet, as far as I can tell, on Saba and Stian. Okay, so at practice, looks like Latte Lot is out. Looks like out practicing. So Latte Lot seems to be practicing. Stian Gregerson is practicing. I don't know if he gets to wear a mouth guard or not. Saba out practicing, and Alzate is not seen with the adductor concerns. So Miggy out a week or two. and practicing this morning. Latte Lot, Stian, and Saba and Alzate, however, is not being seen currently. So we'll keep an eye out on all of that as we get ready for Atlanta and for Nashville coming up this weekend. Obviously, we'll go into juice boxes after we catch up with Miguel Gallardo coming up here in just a little bit. Speak of, is he on the golf course? Oh, we got to find this out. Is he on the golf course this morning, or is he just out enjoying the environs? See, he's organizing. Literally, Miguel like turned his life around to do this.
But man, you're my favorite guy. How can I not do this?
And he freezes immediately. He absolutely freezes. Why did I know this was going to happen? Why did I know? So let's hang on just a second. Yeah, and here's the moody part of. I appreciate that. It's humbling. It's humbling.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm excited. I'm excited about
10 seconds, literally. Oh, this is painful. We're gonna have this. This is gonna be annoying. I can guarantee this is gonna be annoying. Oh, where is he? He's got to be like in the Everglades or something. See, Miguel, he's got to be in the Everglades. Are you in the Everglades or something?
No, man, I'm good now. We fixed it. It was a Wi-Fi issue, but we're good.
Oh, man. It's going to be one of those mornings. I can sense it. It's going to be one of those mornings. Ooh, that's pretty. That's pretty.
You should be okay there, right?
Yeah, so far. Keep your fingers crossed. Then you froze. Good night. Ugh. Miguel's supposed to talk about Orlando, and God knows what's going on. So who knows? I'll ask it next time he pops up. I'll ask him what his provider is, and if he's doing it on Chrome or if he's doing it on whatever. So phones are the devil's work when it comes to this software. They are the devil's handiwork when it comes to this software. This is just, now let's see. All right. So, and he's on the, wait, are you on the, okay. So I see a greenhouse and everything.
You're good? Can you hear me now, John?
Yeah. It's just, phones are the devil's work when it comes to this software. So you're good there.
Beautiful.
All right. I will rapid fire this, and on the off chance that things freeze, and I can deal with no picture. That's fine. As long as I can hear you. We can do that. And let me do it this way. I'm going to do it this way. So here's what we're going to do. I might just do voice of, and then that way it's less of a headache. So he's out in somebody's backyard. He's doing something. It's great. It's a gorgeous day in Central Florida. I don't know where he's hiding and what he's up to, but it's fantastic. It looks great. But here's what I'm thinking. I am thinking that if we do no picture, that's less bandwidth, and that might help. I'm guessing. So let me try that. Next time Miguel pops up, we'll do that. And then we'll have that discussion, because we got to ask about Orlando, got to ask about where he is, got to ask about what he's doing this weekend, and restream troubleshooting. So let me do this, and he's probably going to be in somebody's backyard. They're not going to know him, and it's going to be it's going to be just, it's going to be crazy. I can just think of it right now. I just have this issue. I'm thinking. All right. So let's see. Checking with the guest. All right. So Safari at home. Android is Chrome. iOS is Safari. That's what I needed to know. So that's the thing. All right. So, and he's probably going to hop in somebody's backyard, ask to use their laptop, and do that. That's what I'm guessing. So we'll see where Miguel pops up next. We will see where he pops up next, and we will Let me see if I can text him. Do I have Miguel's cell phone number? I think I do. Hang on. So, no, I don't. Darn, I thought I did. Okay. So I thought I had Miguel's cell number, but I don't. Because what I was going to do was say this: is I was going to say, all right. So what is it that they were saying for troubleshooting? Streaming from an Android, iOS use Safari. So let me do that. And we'll do that to here. So I am going to send, let's see. So, all right. So I do not have Miguel's email. So I just usually go through the league. All right. So, all right. So, all right. Let's see. Phone keeps dropping. And this is what they're telling me. So this is what Restream is telling me. All right, so that's the word. All right. So we sent that note to Miguel. Traditionally, when he's at home, everything's great. But anyway, all right, let's get into juice boxes, and we'll wait for Miguel hopefully to come back in. He looked great for like 10 seconds, and then everything just froze. So getting into juice boxes here for the weekend. Do I have the juice boxes already popped up? Do I? No, I do not. Okay. So, all right. So juice boxes for the weekend. But obviously we got so that is a lanai? Okay. So D. Graham, that's a lanai. Much all pools in Florida have them, assuming they're under 30 years old. Okay. And yes, David, it is how the sausage is made. Literally, it is trying to dance as fast as I can and type with fat fingers to remind everybody what's going on. So, all right. So juice boxes here tonight. Vancouver, massive favorite against Sporting Kansas City at a minus 667. Sporting's a plus 1600. Tomorrow, Toronto is a minus 108. Austin's a plus 309. Draws a plus 250. CF Montreal, favored at home against Red Bulls at a plus 150. New coach bump, maybe. Plus 160 for Red Bulls. Draws a plus 280. Colorado, plus 240, hosting Messi and friends at a minus 105. The premiere of Guillermo Hoyos as interim manager. Draws a plus 320. Atlanta and Nashville. Atlanta, plus 229. Nashville's a plus 114. Interesting, considering what our buddy Lucas Panzica told us. And the draw is a plus 250. NYC, minus 115, hosting Charlotte at a plus 300. Draws a plus 275. FC Cincinnati, plus 154, hosting Chicago Fire to plus 160, draws a plus 280. Revs, plus 179 at home, hosting Crew at a plus 140, draw is a plus 260. 260 and plus 300 are common numbers. Philadelphia, hosting DC United at a minus 111, interesting. And the draw is a plus 260, DC United a plus 320. Purple team, hosting Houston, basically dead even. Orlando City, a plus 150, draws a plus 300. Houston is a plus 154. FC Dallas, plus 114, hosting LAG at a plus 229. Draw is a plus 270. Minnesota United, minus 125, hosting Portland at a plus 320. Draw is a plus 300. RSL, once again, Jared will be there. Reports from Rio Tinto coming up this weekend. RSL, a plus 104, hosting San Diego FC, and they're running red cards at a plus 240. Draw is a plus 280. Seattle hosting St. Louis City SC at a minus 137. Draws a plus 350. And the St. Louis City is a plus 350. Draws a plus 309. Sunday night soccer before the midweek. LAFC is a minus 175. San Jose is a plus 450. And the draw is a plus 350. So those are your juice boxes for the matchups coming up this weekend in Major League Soccer. So that is the kind of the newsy, the juice boxes part. NYCFC, their defense concedes a little bit more than 20% more expected goals per 90 minutes without Thiago Martins. 7th worst XG conceded performance against Vancouver. Martins' absence once again pulls the leadership out. And then you're looking at set pieces up against a back line that has questions. Vancouver is letting everybody see what's going on with NYC. We mentioned what was going on with Nashville. San Diego, 6 red cards in 6 matches. Manu Dua, Chris McVeigh. Mikey Veras says that the back line and getting slow and closing down opponents. And once again, everybody's looking at the tape on Toluca, and that's how they're implementing what's going on and defending better and getting turnovers against San Diego and exploiting San Diego on defense. And so Mikey Veras really looking forward to the World Cup break. Greg Berhalter wanted to tighten up the defense in Chicago. That's working. 5 goals, first 7 matches after giving up 60 last year. I don't think at this pace they're going to give up 60. Chris Brady, once again, you got anchoring that back line, contributing, fires 13 points in 8 matches so far this season. And so that is the rundown of what to look at for the weekend, at least on the headline section, when it comes to anything and everything going on with Major League Soccer. Questions. Who's going to be the new long-term head coach at Messi and Friends? And so a couple of names have been floated out there. Xavi was one of them, and Gajardo was the other. So we'll look at those two, and we'll find out what's going on. Who's going to be the next coach at Inter Miami? That would be the next question that is attached to all of this. So really looking, I'm intrigued, and I think that we are all intrigued with this one as to what it's going to look like with Messi and Friends. There are like 19 different stories that are out there. Trust me, there are 19 different stories. And it is, you wonder, and obviously I'm guessing that the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. And we'll find out over time what it might look like and what the rationale was. But there are some folks out there that are saying things about what has happened previously and trying to apply it to what happened this time out with the Mascherano. And once again, consider sources and those kinds of things, because trying to see that A and B are the same and trying to equate things, once again, I don't think we have all the information yet. So just hit the pause button on what's going on at New Stadium with the layout there. We now know the dates of the round of 16 and the wheres, 28th and 29th of this month. 2 matches on the 28th. One of them is Charlotte and Atlanta, 7 o'clock kick at Matthews, CBS Sports Network and Paramount Plus. The late game on the 28th, San Jose and Minnesota at PayPal Park. That one is on Golazo Network and Paramount Plus. So it's the 2 matches on the 28th, 6 matches on the 29th. Hudson River U.S. Open style, 7 o'clock in Harrison, New Jersey, CBS Sports Network. At Centerbank Stadium in Pawtucket, the home away from home for the Revs. They host the Purple Team. Purple Team goes north, 7:30 kick on the 29th. That one's on Paramount Plus. All these others are just Paramount Plus, no Golazo, no CBS Sports Network. Crew and One Knox at Scotts Miracle Grove Field, Columbus, Ohio. One Knox travels north, 7:30 on the 29th. 8 o'clock Eastern. Fire and St. Louis City is in Bridgeview. 8 o'clock Eastern in Bridgeview, and that one is on just Paramount Plus. Houston hosting Lou City, 8 o'clock at Hell in a Shell on the 29th. And the Mile High Derby, I guess for lack of a better word or lack of phrasing, Rapids and Switchbacks, 9 o'clock Eastern at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, Commerce City, Colorado. That one is also Paramount Plus. So once again, Charlotte in Atlanta is at Matthews. It is not at the Bank. It is at Matthews. 7 o'clock, the 28th. Broadcast plans obviously are about 9 or 10 days away from a 92.9 perspective, but when that gets sorted out, we'll let you know what's going on. So Charlotte, Atlanta, San Jose, Minnesota, early game, late game on the 28th. CBS Sports Network, Golazo Network for late. Then the other 6 on the 29th. Hudson Rivers on CBS Sports Network. Everything else is on Paramount Plus. Revs and Purple Team, Crew and One Knox, Fire in St. Louis City, Houston and Lou City, Colorado Rapids, Colorado Springs Switchbacks. So that's the rundown there of the final 16 in Open Cup. So that's the round of 16 in Open Cup. Set your travel plans accordingly. Once again, we will be hip deep in playoffs. Playoffs? That hurt. So you got playoffs there with high school. We'll keep an eye out for all of that. But once again, the 28th, first game out of the blocks, Atlanta and Charlotte at Matthews at the Sportsplex. in Mecklenburg County, suburban Charlotte downtown. So that's on the 28th. Okay, let's take the tour and look at everything else that is going on. Obviously, this weekend, there's I don't know if you've heard about this one. There's a big match in the Premier League. Big match in the Premier League. And Pep Guardiola basically says, if we don't win, it's over, meaning the race for the title. Oh, by the way, for Atlanta United, too, Carlos Rodriguez is in the middle at SeatGeek. Mateus Dulski and Shane Richards, your AR. Salvador Flores is your fourth official. But right now, in the Prem, this is the game to be made up. Manchester City has 2 matches this week. And the biggest one of the two, they get to make up one in the midweek, but the bigger of the two is going to be the last game on Sunday, Manchester City and Arsenal. Manchester City and Arsenal, that's at 11:30. Manchester City favored at a -118. Arsenal, remember, played in the midweek, plus 333, and your draw is a plus 270. Tomorrow morning early, Brentford and Fulham, 10 o'clockers, Newcastle hosting Bournemouth, Leeds, and Wolves. Big one at the bottom of the table. 12:30, Spurs and Brighton. Big one at the bottom of the table. Chelsea, Manchester United. Big one chasing after European positions, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We'll get into the busy day for Atlanta United coming up in a bit. Villa and Sunderland is on Sunday, as well as Nottingham and Burnley, Everton and Liverpool. Those three, the Merseyside derby is now Hill Dickerson. They're calling it the Hill Dickerson Derby for some reason, just because it's a new stadium. Then Manchester City and Arsenal. The numbers, just to give them to you. Brentford favored at home over Fulham. Newcastle favored on the plus side at home against Bournemouth. Leeds a -161 at home against Wolves, who's basically a plus 500. Spurs a dog at home to Brighton. Chelsea a favorite at home at a plus 120 to Manchester United. Villa -141 hosting Sunderland. Nottingham Forest a -200 hosting Burnley. Everton a dog at home at a plus 210 to Liverpool, who's a plus 135. Manchester City -118 to Arsenal. Monday Night Football, happy to be here. FC continues to win in Conference League. They're a plus 140, and West Ham is a plus 210. Standings, just so you've got them. We'll get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo and everything else here in a sec. So here is the standings. Once again, game in hand, 6 points back. It's where things currently are with Arsenal and Manchester City. Manchester City at 64 points. They win. You would assume that obviously they would get closer in goal difference. Perhaps even depending on, well, it's a plus 3. It's an odd number. You can't do that. But Arsenal, 6 points clear. Manchester City match in hand. They win. Then they win in the midweek. Safe to say probably Manchester City's at the top of the table. Manchester United ahead of Villa on goal difference, 55 points in the battle, 3rd and 4th. Liverpool has hit each column once in the last 3. They're at 52. That's your Champions League spots. Chelsea's right now at 6. They've lost 4 of 5. And it was interesting. Where did I see it? One of the, and I think it was Bedat Igbali, was asked about Liam Rosenior. And it was interesting how it was phrased. It was interesting how it was phrased with Liam Rosenior as Caicedo signs long-term deal. I think we're behind Liam. Bedat Igbali gave an interview on a bunch of different things. Club will start signing ready-made players, revealed the departure of Enzo Maresca was not a change we wanted to make. So Igbali gave a rare interview. The risk of not qualifying for Champions League, 4 points behind Liverpool. Won one of their last 7, lost their last 3, and Liam Rosenior has not been able to get things moving after Enzo Maresca's departure on New Year's Day. Igbali at the CAA World Congress of Sports in Los Angeles yesterday, quote, "Our policy has been no in-season changes. You certainly review and hold not only the manager, but the management team, sporting team, and accountability, typically in the summers, not in season. It's not a change we wanted to make," meaning Maresca leaving. "Change that had a bit of negative impact in the season. When you're changing systems and personnel, it's one we've got to fight our way out of. Still have 6 matches, Premier League, FA Cup semifinal. Hopefully the story of the season hasn't been written yet. and you've got a lot to fight for. In my perspective, when you get punched in the face, you've got to fight back. You've got to stand up and fight, and it's going to hopefully show a lot about the character of this squad. And he goes on to continue. On Liam, we had the opportunity to work with him daily for 18-plus months, obviously with his time at Strasbourg. So we knew what we were getting. We think he has every attribute to be successful here. Got off to a great start. We've had a tough past 5-6 matches, but I think we're behind Liam. Of course, it's a results business, but we think he can be successful long term. I think we're behind Liam. Of course, I don't know what the tone was, but I think we're behind Liam. It's like how did Bedat Igbali, how was his vocal range? But I think we're behind Liam. But I think we're behind Liam. What was the tone there? Reading a quote is one thing, hearing the tone is something else. So if you go to the CAA Business of Sport, you'll find out what the tone was. Was it a question to himself, or was it an affirmation? We don't know yet. So we don't know if we think we're behind Liam, or we think we're behind Liam. We don't know if it was affirmation or if it was a self-questioning moment. So that's kind of where we are with Chelsea right now. So keep an eye on all of that. All right, now speaking of what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, we'll get into that. Brought to us by our friends at Fanatiz, fntz.co/soccer down here, and that link is important because helps us out, helps them out, helps you out when it comes to anything and everything going on with all of the things that you might need with more streaming services, more matches, and all the stuff. fntz.co/soccer down here helps you by adding more matches to everything you're already watching. You get BN, you get all the BNs. You get the home of AFCON, you get TAC, you get all the matches Argentina, more leagues from South America, Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru. All in one place, one subscription, one home. Fanatiz, fntz.co/soccer down here. On Friday, once again, USA and Japan close out their women's series. We'll hear from Emma Hayes here in a second. BN has the CAF Confederations Cup at noon today. We actually have a team that we have had in picks of the week. CR Belouizdad taking on Zamalek at noon. Then you have the French League, Liga at 2:45. BN Espanol simulcasting. 2-NA, Mazatlan and Querétaro at 9. Vancouver Sporting at 10:30 tonight. ESPN Plus, Bundesliga, Bundesliga B, and Drei Bundesliga. 12:30, 2:30, and 1, depending on which one you want to watch. MLS Next Pro tonight, Toronto FC 2, Philadelphia Union 2 at 7, Tacoma Defiance and St. Louis City 2 at 10. Tacoma having issues scoring. St. Louis not. So we'll find out what happens. Paramount Plus, Championship at 3 o'clock. Serie A, 12:30 and 2:45. Women, USA and Japan, TNT, Universo, HBO Max. Paramount Plus has the CONCACAF Championship going on the women's side. They have 6 matches available starting at 5. Last one starts at 9 o'clock. And Peacock is also simulcasting the friendly of USA and Japan at 9 o'clock. Emma Hayes this week was asked about having competitions between players and making sure that everything is on the right page. And the other soundbite, let me see, that's this one. Okay, so, and the question came up to Emma Hayes, why schedule the same team multiple times in a window? Courtesy of our friends at US Soccer and Veritone. Here is Emma Hayes' answer.
I mean, first of all, my job's to prepare the team to qualify for the World Cup and then to compete to win the World Cup. To do that, you have to play the best possible opponents, but also a diverse group of opponents. When you have a 3-game window, it's not all about like feeling good about yourself. We can play plenty of football matches where you do that. I want us to feel stretched. And I want the whole group to experience the highest level game. So what a great situation we're in to be able to put another team out tomorrow to get that exposure against one of the best sides in the world, because you cannot close gaps until you identify what they are. And you can't do that when you're comfortable. And you absolutely can't do that when you're always the dominant side. And when you play a team like Japan that has clarity in methodology, along with the ability to pull you apart, because their rotations, their opposite movements, their attention to detail, technically and tactically, is so superior that you get stretched in a way that, on a physical level, it might show that you're having to maybe do a little bit more high speed work because you're getting pushed. But at this level, if you don't take your chances, that's the difference between winning and losing. But also, you're going to expect them to create chances. So you're going to have to defend your goal well enough. And I think this is exactly what we need. Like, as Carl Lawson always says, you just have to learn to handle hard better. And I'd rather do that than the opposite. And the second question.
And so, quoting Carol Lawson, how to handle the hard better. I thought that was really cool to hear that from Emma Hayes. And then also leading into the matches in Seattle, she was asked about the idea of having a keeper challenge, and rotating folks in and out and all that, and all of that as a part of this three match window where you have multiple keepers in. You start one, then you start another, and then you wonder what the starting lineup is going to be coming in tonight. But this was heading into Seattle's matches. What was the thought process in the keepers trying to determine who is the number one in that group? Here's her answer once again, U.S. Soccer and Baritone.
Well, our starting point is always our model and what we look for from our goalkeepers, both sides of the ball. So that's our starting point. And when we measure up where the players stack up against that, it will be based on what the positional roles will be. That's the first thing. Second of all, you have to be mindful that, let's say, for example, I don't know, we want our goalkeepers to be able to be competent in short and long builds, but they might play for a club that don't want to build short. So, acceptance of that, but know that they might have to keep developing in that area because it's a prerequisite for this team, for example. The same as, you might be in a team that concedes a lot of chances, but playing for the US, you might have to be prepared for facing one big chance a game. So it's a constant. You have to apply it depending on the context and the situation they're in. So I think that's the first thing. The second is, like we have been doing, trying to create at least 2 contenders per position. But it seems to me that we have an obsession in football around who's the number one, and we don't say the same about outfield players, because the realities are that, I don't know, Sophia Wilson's pregnant and absent. Well, we've got to prepare somebody else to play for that. I could spend all of our time developing one goalkeeper all the way through, and then the person behind that has 0 experience. And then it's, what a failure as a coach that you don't prepare players in the same way. But because we're so stuck sometimes with traditionalism in football, maybe that comes from the fact that we have I've always questioned this. I know I love my goalkeeper coach more than anything else, but I'm like, why is it the goalkeepers only get a specialist coach? Well, that's been the tradition of football, and creating that specialism for everyone, I think, is important. But I acknowledge the differences between outfield players and goalkeepers is one can use their hands. So there might be more complex movements and patterns that accompany that. So my job is to develop at least 2 goalkeepers that will be in contention for next summer. I've been really clear that, at least the lineups will show you that Claudia and Fallon are being given at sometimes equal goes. Sometimes one player will get 2 games, some will get 1. I think without question they're the 2 leading the way, but they also have very different profiles. One's experienced in Champions League level, maybe more accustomed to playing higher level opponents on a more regular basis. One has been developed domestically, played in youth national team tournaments. One is more comfortable doing certain actions, the other one's more comfortable doing the others. And sometimes that would be dependent on the opponent, much like it would be if you are a striker that might be particularly good at stretch, or a striker who comes ball side.
Emma Hayes, on her multiple keepers in one camp. And so that was interesting stuff leading into the Seattle matches. So they split in Seattle, heading to Colorado this weekend, and it'll be match number 3 in this cycle against Japan. So keeping an eye on all of that once again with that happening tonight. Figured we'd go ahead and play the Q&A sessions that Emma Hayes had going into Seattle, addressing some of the issues about this particular window. Saturday, CAF Champions League on BN. Early morning, middle of the afternoon. French League, Turkish League. So literally it's CAF Champions League, French League, Turkish League, CAF Champions League on BN and BN en Español. Milwaukee QPR on CBS Sports Network. Liga MX is late night on CBS Sports Network. USL Championship afternoon on Saturday with Dell's Charleston Battery taking on Tampa Bay. Deuce has Bundesliga, Hoffenheim and Borussia Dortmund Saturday morning. NBC, big NBC, has Premier League at 12:30. USA has the leading matchups to that, 7:30 Brentford Fulham, Newcastle and Bournemouth at 10. ESPN Deportes, Bundesliga and Copa del Rey. Fox Deportes, 2 in Serie A, and then late night they've got the Honduran Liga Nacional. Telemundo, Premier League, Chelsea, Manchester United, Liga MX at 9 o'clock. 2 to N Sábado Futbolero, 7, 9, and 11. Universo, 4 matches on Universo, and then Guadalajara, Chivas, and Puebla at 9 o'clock. Univision, simulcasting Sábado Futbolero, 7, 9, and 11. All the matchups on Apple TV. Golazo has 2 in the English Championship. Then they've got USL Championship at 7, Pittsburgh and Detroit, Boise and Westchester. That's going to be a hot crowd. So if you are a true sicko and have a device available Saturday night while you're watching second half of Atlanta or waiting to get home, second half of this one, hot crowd in Boise for Boise and Westchester. Interesting that one's going to be up there for USL League One, but that's going to be a great matchup. ESPN Plus, Bundesliga, Copa del Rey, everything USL Championship, 2 matches USL League One, Paramount Plus, 5 in English Championship, 3 in Serie A, 2 in Championship, 1 in USL League One. Peacock, Premier League, they've got 3. USL Super League, Lexington and Tampa at 5. Liga MX, Chivas and Puebla at 9. And then 5 matches in MLS Next Pro with Crew and Revs, Fire and Atlanta United 2, Crown Legacy, Chattanooga FC, Inter Miami CF, Huntsville City, Ventura County, and Austin FC 2, Los Verdes. Women's side, World Cup 27 qualifier, CBS Sports Network, Spain and Ukraine, 10 o'clock. Golazo has another qualifier at 3. Fox ONE and Soccer Plus have CONMEBOL Nations League on the women's side, Paramount Plus, 6 women's qualifiers starting at 3, wrapping at 8. Sunday, just to give you what's going on, BN's got the French League, Ligue ESPN2 Bundesliga, NBC Premier League, USA Premier League, Fox Deportes triple header Serie A, Telemundo Premier League, 2 to NA Liga MX at night, Apple TV Sunday Night Soccer, Golazo League 1, 2 matches available, Paramount Plus, 4 matches available Serie A, 3 matches available in the Premier League on Peacock. Now, we mentioned Atlanta United and Chicago Fire 2. Here's the day tomorrow for us, just to give you an idea how incredibly, massively busy we are. How incredibly, massively busy we are. It's going to start in the morning with Academy. ATLUTD.com/live. And that's going to be a doubleheader, as it always is. Charlotte's Academy side's coming to town. Coming to town for the 2 matches on the massive Saturday for Atlanta United and all of the teams involving Atlanta United. So ATLUTD.com/live, U18s at 10, U16s at noon. Then after that, the 2s are in Bridgeview. And so that is a 4:03 kick. Pregame starts with Jason at 3:30. We're going to have everything that's going on with Academy. We'll have Academy highlights for you, and we will also let you know what's going on with the rest of MLS Next Pro leading into the game. 4:03 kick. Game should be over by about 6 shortly thereafter. Then at 6:30, pregame for Atlanta United, Nashville SC, and that one is available for you. 92.9, is it? No, Star 94. Star 94 is where it's available. So Star 94 is where that one is good to go. And that's where you get to dial in and catch up with that one. So that's the rundown of those. And that's the massive day of soccer. The massive day of soccer that's attached. So 10 and noon, ATLUTD.com/live, YouTube. Some combination of all of us will be there. Maddie, Jason, me, the Hoff. Yeah, some form will all be there. 10 and noon, U18s, U16s, Atlanta United, and Charlotte. Then 3:30 pregame, 4:03 kick. MLS Next Pro, Atlanta United 2 in Bridgeview taking on Chicago Fire 2. 6:30 pregame, 94 on Star 94, leading into Atlanta United and Nashville. 7:40 kick. I will be on. So Maddie and Abe will have your pregame. Then the full-time report with me and Abe after the match. That'll be on Star 94, and that's your day. So literally, you could start your day at like 10 o'clock in the morning and end at 11 o'clock at night. 13 hours of Atlanta United soccer is available to you tomorrow across the board. So that is the massive rundown of Atlanta United. So once again, remember, Star 94, Star 94, Star 94. I can't emphasize that one enough. So it is Star 94 for Atlanta United and Nashville SC coverage tomorrow on the network. Like I said, I'm still keeping an eye out and an ear out for Miguel, and hopefully we can find out where he is and what he's up to. More news out of Gotham this morning in the NWSL. We'll get into that here in a second too. Savannah McCaskill has inked a contract extension through the 28th season, and interesting. So Gotham's midfielder Savannah McCaskill has signed a contract extension through the 28th season. The club announced Friday in partnership with Dove. Literally, when you look at the release, it is Gotham logo, Dove logo, contract extension, pretty picture, and markup with Savannah McCaskill. So Savannah McCaskill continues her career in Gotham, and obviously we'll keep an eye out on all of that. So that's the news out of the NWSL with player signings. But now there is also talk that the NWSL may flip their calendar. Major League Soccer has done the same. So does that mean now that the NWSL will? Because there are times where the NWSL will have breaks in their calendar. This is one of those. And so it's been debated for a couple of years. Is this going to be the time where they flip their calendar? Jeff Kassouf over at the Four Letter, anticipating that folks at the NWSL, the Board of Governors, expected to vote later this month on whether to flip the calendar to fall to spring. Right now, March to November, that this has been debated for a couple of years. What do we do? See the summer season start in late summer, end in late spring. You're in line with everybody else. And so you would make that change much like Major League Soccer has done. 3 years the debate has been going, excuse me. 3 years the debate's been going on. Flip of the calendar voted down, according to Jeff, back in late 2024. And so now debate's picking back up again. Could happen at the upcoming board meeting, although the agenda to such meetings change frequently. And you could have proposals on the table, and then you come right up to the meeting, and then it's just like, then it doesn't come up. And even if there is a vote, according to Kassouf, that successfully passes a calendar change, it could take years to implement. Because remember, when Major League Soccer decided that they were going to flip their calendar, it was going to be this season and then the sprint schedule, and then you're in line. Does the NWSL do the same thing? Do they go through their 26 schedule, do a sprint, and then go in line in 27 late in the summer? Or because we're in the middle of the 26 season, or early in the 26 season, the 26 season's already being underway, is it something that you do after the 27 and go 27 schedule normal, sprint 28, 28, you're in line because there is, Team 17 coming online. Team 17 coming online in 28. Do you do it for them then? So keep an eye out for that idea. And if it does come to pass, then once again, MLS has done it. NWSL thinking about it. Do they pull the trigger? That would be the larger question in all of this going forward. So NWSL Commissioner Jessica Berman said back in November about changing the calendar. Certainly opportunities that can be created with us not overlapping Major League Soccer, and that schedule congestion for our summer calendar will be mitigated. This was before the 2025 NWSL Championship. On the other hand, there will, of course, be other challenges it creates in terms of understanding and knowing stadium availability. Sources told ESPN there's a belief among some board members less competition for primetime TV in late spring, and that the NWSL playoffs could have a larger audience in that window. Maximizing revenue from the next media rights deal is the board's current top priority, something that Commissioner Berman has spoken about a lot. Critics point to the cold weather markets, potential safety issues, but of course you also have the extreme heat that goes on during this time of year in the next couple of months. And they also have the concerns about cold weather and attendance figures. I would also be intrigued about hot weather and attendance figures. Board of Governors meet later this month. And so my guess is that it would probably end up the 28 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, 2031, expected to be primarily hosted by the U.S. Changing the calendar has the support of a lot of sporting executives across the league, because then you have the contracts in line with Europe and you can sit there and gauge, and you're not pulling players in, having them after their seasons come in, continue playing without a break, and then risk having them on the shelf from having played so long or just hitting a wall and not being able to come back from it. So something to keep an eye on when it comes to the schedule flip. But if you were to look at the NWSL right now, just with the teams and then the teams coming online, who are they and where do they play? And then you can sit there and go, concern here, concern here. Well, San Diego. Portland is Portland. Seattle is Seattle. Might be colder in the earlier months. Angel City, Los Angeles. Houston, summer. Orlando, summer. Utah, late spring, winter, because today and tomorrow, I think it's orange ball watch in Utah. 40-mile-an-hour winds, possible orange ball for the San Diego match. So we'll keep an eye on that when it comes to the possibility of an orange ball. And Jarrett was the one that told us about the possibility that the orange ball might be in play this weekend out west. So, we'll keep an eye on orange ball this weekend. According to Alex Crook from the Premier League, Marco Rose to Bournemouth, close to being fully agreed. Club moved quickly to identify their top target after Andoni Iraola confirmed his pending exit. That's Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs working on the double team on that. And let's see. And Moises Caicedo, once again, he has officially signed the deal. He didn't have a hand over a contract on the table, but he did hold up a jersey. Washington, you're kind of getting the double whammy with Washington because the summer can get really humid. And the spring, you could have your bouts of winter weather. Denver, winter weather, squalls. Bay is Bay. B-A-Y, not B-A-E. Kansas City, you could have very, very hot summer. You could have your elements of spring that are kooky. Courage, hot summer. Gotham, winter, maybe summer. Chicago, winter, maybe summer. Louisville, summer. Boston, spring, early season, and then maybe summer. Then you add in Atlanta as Team 17. you're in a dome. So you're looking at all of this stuff, and it's all over the place. So what does the NWSL want to do? Does the NWSL go in line with everybody else, or are they going to hang and just kind of be who they are? And let's see, gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I've missed anything when it comes to news. Not at the moment. So rumors, gossip, innuendo, all those things. Trending rumors. Bayern Munich and Liverpool exploring a move for Spurs midfielder Archie Gray, according to the four-letter paper. Gray's one of several players that could be moved on if Spurs suffer relegation. Both European giants keeping tabs. Report adds that Gray's teammate Lucas Bergvall could also go, admired by Chelsea and Villa. Arsenal leading in the race for Anthony Gordon, according to the three-letter paper. It is reported the Gunners are in the strongest position to sign him. Once again, three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Also on the radar of Liverpool and Bayern Munich, belief that a £75 million offer would be enough to persuade the Magpies to part ways with him. 10 goals in Newcastle's Champions League campaign this year. Barca, Arsenal, Napoli, tracking Palmeiras defender Luis Benedetti. Diario AS reports all three clubs long-standing interest in the 19-year-old, who says Fabregas at Como has identified as a potential replacement for defender Jacobo Ramon. Brazilian side believed to have anticipated interest in his signature from Europe before signing him to a contract extension that secures his future until December of 29 last year, said that they'd be willing to part ways with him if they get an offer at 25 million euro. Alexis on the radar of several clubs in Europe, according to the Telegraph, could be offloaded in the summer with as many as 9 players linked to an exit. Joe Gomez, AC Milan, Brighton, and Crystal Palace remain interested. Could be open to leaving Merseyside to go to a new challenge. Joined the Reds from Charlton Athletic back in 2015. Barca could pass on activating the permanent option clause to sign Marcus Rashford, according to Marca. The option is there, 30 million euro. Reported the club's hierarchy are concerned about his drop in performance recently, 2 goals in his last 16. Abola, Manchester United and Fulham have joined Napoli and Inter Milan in the race to sign Benfica's Richard Rios in the summer. Ekrem Konur, Barca exploring a move for Leverkusen left back Alejandro Grimaldo. The Times, Chelsea's Levi Colwill expected to sign a new long-term deal at Stamford Bridge. Gazzetta dello Sport, AC Milan weighing up a move for Juve's Dusan Vlahovic. Team Talk, Chelsea have entered the race for Bournemouth defender Marcus Senesi, but right now Spurs are in front, and apparently they're close to a deal. Terms have been, depending on your source, terms have been verbally agreed to or they're close in the overall. Diario AS, Sevilla considering an approach to sign Liverpool keeper Armin Pesci on loan. Bayern Munich Liverpool midfielder Leon Goretzka has been placed at the top of AC Milan's shortlist as they look to sign him on a free, offering him a contract until the summer of 29 worth €5 million a season, according to Nicola Schira. Talks remain ongoing between Atleti and Atalanta regarding a deal for Ederson. That's from our buddy Ben Jacobs. Gazzetta, Liverpool have Inter Milan right back Denzel Dumfries on their radar, having made an inquiry for him in January. Real Madrid, no plans to begin a squad overhaul in the summer, despite their elimination from Champions League and La Liga form. That's from Mundo Deportivo. Foot Mercato, multiple clubs in Europe are watching the situation of Lens defender Malang Sarr, set to become a free agent in the summer. Rudy Galletti, Crystal Palace defender Mofe Jamide is attracting interest from PSV Eindhoven and Celta de Vigo. And on record, Morten Schulman's agent Ivan Marco Benes, confident his client will continue at Sporting amid reported interest from Premier League clubs. We need to ask our buddy Nino Torres about that. So that is the tour of the planet from the news perspective. We do have another couple of things to get into. Yesterday, it was Europa League and it was Europa Conference League. And what happened was Europa League is down now to the semis. Nottingham and Aston Villa, Braga and Freiburg. And that is coming up in 13 days. So yesterday in Europa League, Forest beat Porto 1-0, favored at City Ground. Freiburg beat Celta de Vigo at a plus 350. Braga doubled Betis 4-2 at a plus 375. And Villa whacked Bologna 4-0 at a minus 182. So now you know what the next matches are. The two Premier Leagues go up against each other, Braga and Freiburg, both at 3 o'clock Eastern time on April 30. News on Nottingham Forest once again leading into this weekend. And keep an eye out for injuries and things. And I mean that, injuries and things. So mixed injury news after the Europa win. Chris Wood and Murillo expected to be fit for Sunday's match with Burnley. Callum Hudson-Odoi is out. Vitor Pereira expecting Wood and Murillo to be fit. Get their first European semifinal since 1984. Morgan Gibbs White's goal secured a 2-1 aggregate win over Porto in the Europa League quarters. So everybody was talking about Brian Clough and what's going on, reenacting those glory days back in the 90s. Chris Wood took a kick to the knee in a challenge that saw Jan Bednarek sent off. Murillo got a knock, Hudson-Odoi holding his thigh. Pereira delivered positive prognoses on the first two. Hudson-Odoi seen leaving the stadium on crutches. Vitor Pereira, quote, "I'm not a doctor, but I think Chris and Murillo will not be anything special. Of course, Chris has a bruise on his knee, but I believe that him and Murillo will be ready for Burnley. Callum has a muscle injury, and it is not possible." That is the bad news. Rallied around Elliot Anderson, whose mother had passed in the build-up to the match. And so mixed news, but looks like two of the three that were concerns after the matchup. So Nottingham Forest advances, and they are in the final four of a tournament. First time since 94. So that is 32 years ago. And so it was 32 years in the making for that one. And so Europa League now has their final four. Europa Conference League, they also have their final four. Shakhtar Donetsk and Happy to Be Here FC. Crystal Palace. Palace gets the big win. They're favored once again on the 30th at a plus 104. Going to Shakhtar, who plays their home matches in Poland. Shakhtar's a plus 260, draws a plus 229. Rayo Vallecano in Strasbourg is the other one. Rayo's a plus 104. Strasbourg is a plus 250. Like I said, I think that they just take the favorite numbers. They just put them up against the wall. It's like spaghetti. Just both your favorites are a plus 104. Of course, you're also 13 days away. And Rayo Vallecano favored at home. AEK beat Rayo on the day, but did not win the tie. Fiorentina won the day, did not win the tie. Strasbourg blew out Mainz in Strasbourg, and Shakhtar and AZ Alkmaar had a 2-2 draw. Shakhtar advancing at a plus 240. So that was the rundown with teams at the bottom of tables, and Happy to Be Here FC making their way into semifinal activity when it comes to all of the Europe and Europa Conference League action. So where is that one? Okay. So I saw this, and actually Jason saw it first, so he gets full credit. And I do have a bit of a Sheffield Wednesday update too. All right. Jason saw this, and it made me laugh. So there was yeah. Let's see. And so here we go. Sausage being made again. All right. So trying to send word. Let's see. Don't do that. Let's see. Okay. That's because. Sorry, like I said, I'm trying to do. I'm trying to catch up with Major League Soccer here real quick. So basically, like I said, I'm just reaching out to MLS real quick. I know this is really riveting TV and radio, but hang on just a second. All right, so almost done. Hang on. All right, so all right, so there. All right. Okay, so just sent that to Major League Soccer. Okay, so Jason saw this. Sorry about that break. I had to send that note. So Jason saw this, and literally, I just started laughing. And once again, I will give you required reading for the weekend, and it's going to come from one particular location, and it will be where is it? Okay, so here it is. All right. So it comes from Frankfurter Rundschau, which I'm imagining is either a newspaper / blog / local writer in Frankfurt. So here, I have not, Del, that is a part of the other news that I have. Makes you wonder if there's 1 + 1 equaling 2 here. So John Texter, here's the headline. Jan Christian Müller from the Frankfurter Rundschau. U.S. investor Texter wants to buy Eintracht. Bosses Hellman and Krusche warn against it. I'm going to go ahead and say this. And this came out middle of the night, our time. So it was part of German wire copy, morning their time, middle of the night, our time. So I would just say this. Here's the headline. U.S. investor Texter wants to buy Eintracht. Bosses Hellman and Krusche warn against it. Listen to Hellman and Krusche. Jan Christian Müller's article. A host of football celebrities gathered at the Astor Film Lounge in Frankfurt's Maisel Shopping Center. Markus Krusche, sporting director of Eintracht Frankfurt. Andreas Rettig, sporting director of the German Football Association. Basti Red, Florian Plettenberg, Michael Gabriel, head of German fan projects. The occasion was the presentation of the new 3-part ARD documentary series, Inside Football, Who Buys the Game? Frankfurt plays a key role in the first part. That's why Krusche is present, along with the media director, Jan Strassheim. Short film series by author Robert Kempe, available in the ARD Media Library from the 18th. One scene that seems particularly bizarre. U.S. investor John Texter sits in his opulent waterfront home in Florida and says, I'm an Eintracht Frankfurt fan. I'm the perfect, passionate guy who'd love to invest in Germany, end quote. Refers to an alleged German past of his ancestors. Quote, I don't speak the language, but my father said, you're German, so I'm German. And on top of that, a supposed German who claims to know his way around the heart of Europe. John Texter, 60 years old, points to Texter Street in the middle of Sachsenhausen. So that, he says, is a perfect fit for him and Eintracht Frankfurt. Krusche was in the VIP section, apparently eating nachos with guac. Seems a little puzzled. He doesn't even know Texter, according to the newspaper. And so the MCO, multi-club ownership, which, and this is from the article from Mueller, the system of so-called multi-club ownership, which businessman Texter operates with his Eagle Football Holdings, also doesn't seem to appeal to Krusche. Evident on his face afterward on stage. Krusche also explicitly pointed out at the Spobies Congress in Hamburg in February, he considers majority ownership in professional football to be dangerous because it's primarily due to these structures in which clubs owned by one and the same consortium shuffle players back and forth, that the prices for talent have skyrocketed. Listen to Krusche and to Helmer. Do that. Do not do it. Frankfurter, from the Frankfurt newspapers. John Texter apparently is in a documentary saying that he's a German, knows of a Texter Strasse, and that he's interested in Eintracht Frankfurt, which was news to the front office. The guy was eating guac and nachos in the audience and saw the soundbite. Don't do it. Dell. Did you mention Hervé Renard was sacked to Saudi Arabia 2 months before the World Cup? I am now. Makes you wonder if the Matt Crocker element of him leaving U.S. soccer and heading over to have a title as of yet unknown is going to be laid out there for someone who's going to be taking over for Hervé Renard. So Hervé Renard out 2 months before the World Cup. Returned for a second spell as Saudi coach at the end of 24. Led him at the last World Cup in Qatar. Renard told AFP he's been relieved of duties. But yeah, I wonder if there is a connection between Crocker's exit here, entrance there, and Hervé Renard's exit there. Yeah, and D. Graham, I think you are correct. There is a German ownership limit of 49%. But I'm sure that John Texter would try to probably figure out a way to try to get around it. Sky Germany also reporting Marie-Louise Eta, who is the interim coach at Union Berlin on the men's side. It's just going to be for the caretaking for the remainder of the season. Club's president, Dirk Zingler, told Sky, quote, to accompany her with this discussion would do her and women's football as a whole a disservice. Marie-Louise Eta will be in charge here for 5 games, and after that, she will take over the women's team. So that is what has come out from the press conference at Union Berlin this morning / afternoon. So keep an eye on that. Championship, EFL, this weekend. 4 teams separated by 3 points, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Ipswich, Millwall, Southampton, Middlesbrough. The end of July, Ipswich and Middlesbrough reached an agreement if Borough midfielder Hayden Hackney agreed personal terms, he could join the Suffolk club freshly relegated with funds for a championship record fee of around £20 million. Kieran McKenna knew he'd be getting the best schemer in the division if his target said yes. Hackney heard Ipswich out but turned the transfer down. He would stay. And so now in the championship, you have 4 teams separated by 3 points for the second automatic spot and 3 of the 4 teams in the playoff. So keep an eye out on the championship if you are a true sicko and have a device that is free. Christian Romero confirmed by Roberto De Zerbi he's not going to play again this season. Remains positive the club can stay up, meaning De Zerbi. Yes, I don't know if we win the game for dinner. I know we eat very well. Spent the last week in the relegation zone. De Zerbi took his squad out for a meal in Mayfair before a visit at Brighton in an attempt to build relationships for a final stretch. I'm positive. I'm ready to fight. I am ready to pay every week for one dinner. And if we win, you'll do that. Ready to fight, believe that keep the Premier League status. I believe in my words that I said last week, the focus is to win one game. So Moises Caicedo's contract, by the way, 2033, 7 seasons. 7 years for Moises Caicedo. And so you've got that to look into as we go. Mikel Arteta kind of is poo-pooing what Pep Guardiola said about the race being over if they lose. Meaning Manchester City, Pep says they lose, race is over. Arteta's like, he picked out his Ticonderoga number 2 pencil and went, not so fast, my friend. So he doesn't think it's over. But Pep does. Pep thinks it's over. And I mentioned the John Texter stuff because of what we were getting into last week. And this has been a fantastic series by Paul Quinn over at the ESK.org. He looked at Texter in depth. And he said, we're still efforting Paul to come on the show. And so Paul continues his series of analysis. His most recent article that is out, and this is requested required reading, and it's a long read, so this might be like over lunch or something. He is looking at the financial architecture of how Chelsea is funded and how Aries management operates. So this is a like I said, it is part of his analysis series at the esk.org. And so this will be your requested required reading for the weekend. Dell saying Giorgio Doni is a potential replacement in Saudi Arabia. So here is the here is your requested required reading of the weekend over at the ESK, and it's part of a really cool series that Paul has done. It's deep dives and it's about money, but it's a deep dive and it's about money. It's about how everything works and how everything is structured and how it's all there laid out, and how all of these private equity groups are linking in, where they link in, teams with multiple corporations and what did we say, 22 separate companies attached to Chelsea and Bowley Clear Lake. It's like certain aspect handles over here, certain aspect over here. The transfers is handled by this holdco. You got Blueco, 22, Holdco, all the things. They're all there. But yeah, Paul Quinn and his series continues over at the ESK. So that is your requested required reading for the weekend. And actually, let me say hi to everybody. Let's see. So morning Dell, morning D Graham. And let's see. D Graham, not a fan of the flipping of the schedule. Home games at the Benz, difficult with United Falcons and the NWSL. That was the other thing I wanted to get into. Just the venues themselves. I could see some double headers. I could see some double headers at Mercedes-Benz, or a day-night doubleheader like in Major League Baseball. Murph Dragon is its own thing. You're looking at San Diego State. You're looking at San Diego FC. So nothing would change other than adding San Diego State football. Portland, nothing changes. You just have to dance around Portland State football. Seattle, Seahawks, and that's it. Angel City, LAFC. Houston, Dynamo, and the University of Houston, or Houston Baptist football. Orlando, it's that building, and so it would depend on college football going into that building in Orlando. Utah, it's its own thing. You're still with the same folks. Washington would be with, well, they're with the UFL now would have the building all to itself. So it would be just your soccer carryover at Audi. Denver is building their own building. Bay, it's the same thing because you're moving over with San Jose. Kansas City, it's your own building. Courage, it's your own building. You might be, I don't think anybody plays in Cary. Gotham, it's the same schedule concerns you have now. Chicago, same schedule you've got now. Racing Louisville, I think it's the same scheduling you've got now. You're just with Lou City. Boston Legacy, you're building your own place. So right now, it is the rundown pretty much is the same. Everybody's shifting, so you're there with Team 17. You're with the Falcons and for the building itself. And so you're there as a tenant. You're looking at probably Friday nights and scheduling things out away. So Fridays and Sundays, maybe. So you're partnering with your MLS franchise. And you might have some Friday nights, which honestly might not be bad for the NWSL. Might not be bad for the NWSL because if you owned Friday night, it might not be bad. Let's see. Morning, David. Morning, Abby. Morning, Bart. Let's see. So, morning, Ricky. And let's see. Morning, Lokeville. Morning, Jay. And let's see. There's Bart. There's Abby. And let's see. There's Kefsey. Good morning. Let's see. Sea Bulls. I can't believe that. Qingdao Derby was goalless. So I think that's it for folks that are on the Twitch pitch. But obviously, thanks to all of you folks that are here with us as well. But yeah, if you've got some time over a meal, read the stuff that Paul Quinn's doing over at the ESK because it is that big. It is that big and it's that important that we all get to understand what is going on. So we talked Premier League. We talked about what to watch for. We talked about everything else going on around the planet. Let me see if I can get the quick hitters going on. Let's see. We mentioned Jalen Howell. Lionel Messi purchased the club in the 5th tier of the Spanish pyramid where Adrian Gill was playing before he came over here. That's very cool. Luis Enrique, they were wondering about his contract. Looks like he's going to extend through 29. Hansi Flick might be an extension at Barca through 28. River and Boca, Sunday at the Monumental. Once again, Sunday at 5, 4 Eastern. Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You get Fanatis, you get the Super Classico in Buenos Aires, 4 o'clock Eastern on Sunday. Claudio Ubeda, Boca have now gone 12 without a loss. 9-match unbeaten run under Coudet. Something's got to give. Something's got to give, people. So if you've got Fanatis, put that one in your hip pocket for Sunday. So leading into Sunday night soccer in Major League Soccer, you've got Boca, River, 4 o'clock Eastern, Sunday afternoon. Must see. If you've never seen Boca and River, you have the opportunity to watch it, watch it. This one's at the Monumental. Something got to give, people. That one's going to be fun. All right, once again, busy weekend across the board. Tomorrow, it is U18s for Atlanta United up against Charlotte at 10. U16s are at noon. ATLUTD.com/live. Here, let me type that in. So ATLUTD.com/live. ATLUTD.com/live, 10 and noon. Some combination of all of us will be there. 3:30 pregame, Atlanta United 2 in Bridgeview, taking on Chicago Fire 2. Atlanta United 2, by the way, in MLS Next Pro. Do we have juice boxes on that one? Do we have juice boxes in MLS Next Pro? No, we just have the juice boxes for tonight. At least our friends at Odds Portal only have juice boxes for tonight. So in MLS Next Pro, standings. Go into the East. You look. Atlanta United right now is in a gaggle. 2 through 7, 6 teams separated by 1 point. Atlanta right now in 6th, behind on goal difference by 1 goal behind Chattanooga. So Atlanta to Chicago Fire 2, and Chicago Fire 2 is at 9 points. They're in 8th. So it's a battle of 6 at 8 in the standings. Early marker for Jose Silva and Atlanta United 2. 3:30 pregame, 4:03 kick. Then after that, Jason will have the call for you there. 6:30, Star 94. Star 94, 94.1, and the Odyssey app. Star 94. That's where Atlanta United is. 6:30, Five Stripes Countdown, Abe and Maddie. Game at 7:40, Mike and Jason. Full-time report, me and Abe after. So literally from 10 a.m. till 11 p.m., it is 13 hours of Atlanta United tomorrow. Sunday, you've got Boca and River. You got Sunday soccer. You've got all the things. And then Monday, high school football. Well, true. FUTBOL. Playoffs begin. We'll have your matchups. We'll have everything ready for you. And that's when Red Clay goes daily. Won't be as long as an hour every day, but it will still be every day at noon. Brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente over here. That one. So thanks for another great week. And also we'll have the best of SDH AM for you all weekend long. And you can get that at 92.9 The Game, the Off the Woodwork podcast section, and on the Odyssey app. That'll be up in the morning to get you ready for everything. Lucas Panzica will be on it. We'll have all your other guests on there as well. So busy week for us. Going to be busy weeks for a while until about December. And then we'll remember that we got to buy Christmas presents. But can't thank all of you enough for being a part of it every single week here at SDH AM. And we're going to see you all weekend long. We're going to be out there because we are around the corner from everywhere. Mucha platial. Play it safe. Be safe. We'll see a lot of you all around the weekend. And since it is the end of the Friday show, means we exit one way and one way only. Mucho platiel, play it safe. We'll see you soon.
The war was on. Ah, the keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Oh, our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress. The streets are ours. The